Today, we are cracking open the user's guide to the most complex and honestly, the most important piece of equipment we will ever own, our minds. We're going to go way beyond the buzzwords to get a real, practical handle on mental wellness and understand how our inner world actually works. So, let's start with a question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. You know that feeling, am I just in a funk, or is this something more? Figuring out the difference is that first, absolutely crucial step toward taking better care of ourselves. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the mental health spectrum. Then, we'll get into how to recognize the warning signs. After that, we're going to explore the mind's fascinating defense system, talk about navigating frustration and conflict, and we'll wrap up with proactive care. Sound good? Let's dive in. Okay, first things first, we have to get our definition straight. The language we use here really matters, because mental health isn't some simple on or off switch. It's this huge, dynamic spectrum that we're all moving around on, all the time. Now, this is a super important distinction. On one side, you have mental ill health. The key word there is absence. It's when those positive qualities aren't really there. Think of it like a garden that just isn't thriving. But then, on the other side, you have mental illness. That's a diagnosable medical condition, something that actively causes distress and makes it hard to function. So one is more of a state, and the other is a condition. It's a subtle but critical difference. And this, right here, is what the positive end of that spectrum looks like. According to the World Health Organization, mental health isn't just about not being sick. It's a state of well-being. It's about having the tools to cope with stress, to realize your potential, to learn, to work, and to be a part of your community. It's an active, flourishing state of being. So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, it breaks down to some pretty foundational stuff. Being able to build and maintain healthy relationships, having genuine self-respect, and, this is a big one, having the resilience to handle the curveballs life inevitably throws at you. Okay, let's keep building on this. Now that we have a bit of a baseline for what healthy looks like, how do we spot when things are starting to shift on that spectrum? Well, it almost always comes down to noticing changes, either in ourselves or in the people we care about.
Let's start with the internal stuff, the weather inside your mind, so to speak. Maybe you notice it's suddenly way harder to focus, or you're worrying constantly. Even small decisions might feel like climbing a mountain. That persistent low mood, or just feeling completely swamped by everything, those are all signals that the internal climate has changed.
And then you have the external signs, the behavioral changes that you and other people can actually see. This could be sleeping way more or way less than usual. Maybe you start dodging social events you used to love. Or maybe you find it way harder to keep your emotions in check. The key thing here is not a single bad day, but a pattern of change from how a person normally is. Okay, this next part is honestly so fascinating. Our minds have this incredible, built-in, totally automatic security system. It's designed to protect us from thoughts and feelings that are just too painful or overwhelming to deal with head-on, and we call these our defense mechanisms. So what are they, exactly? They're basically these subconscious strategies our brains use to put some distance between us and unpleasant stuff. This idea originally came from Sigmund Freud, and it describes our mind's automatic reflex to shield itself from psychological damage. Now, there are a ton of these, but we're just going to zoom in on a few of the most common ones you see here. Let's take a closer look at projection and rationalization, just to see how they actually play out. Okay, here is a perfect textbook example of projection. You've got this feeling inside you, in this case, anger, that you find unacceptable. So instead of acknowledging it, your brain just kind of slings it onto someone else. Suddenly, they're the angry one, not you. It's a clever way of disowning an impulse. And then there's rationalization. This is the ultimate ego saver, right? Instead of confronting a painful truth like, man, I really didn't study enough, the mind cooks up a perfectly logical sounding excuse. It's not my fault, the teacher is terrible. It lets us sidestep feelings of failure. So our minds are constantly doing this backstage work to protect us. But what happens when we're just plain stuck, when we're caught in a mental tug-of-war? Well, that brings us to frustration and conflict, two of the most common inner tensions we all have to deal with. So let's break down a couple of these. First, you've got approach conflict. This is a pretty good problem to have, actually. It's choosing between two awesome options, like two amazing job offers. Then you have the total opposite, avoidance conflict. That's the classic stuck between a rock and a hard place. You have to choose, but you don't like either option. Now this one,
This is probably the most common and the trickiest kind of conflict we face in our big life decisions. It's when a single goal has both really good things and really scary things about it. Think about getting married or moving to a new city. You're pulled toward it and you're pushed away from it at the exact same time, and that can create so much stress and indecision.
All right, so we've looked at the challenges, the internal conflicts. Now let's pivot to what I think is the most empowering part of all this. How do we stop just reacting to things and start being proactive? How can we actively build and protect our mental wellness?
A really powerful way to think about this is with these 3 levels of prevention. Primary is all about stopping problems before they even begin. Secondary is about catching them early, right when they start. And tertiary is about managing the long-term effects. For right now, we're going to focus on that first one, the most proactive level, primary prevention.
And here's the best part. Primary prevention is something we can all be a part of. This is about building strong foundations for everyone. It means things like reducing the stigma around talking about mental health, building strong social ties, making sure people are educated, and helping each other learn healthy ways to cope with stress. Because stress is just a part of life, right? And that brings us to our final thought for today. When you look at this list of proactive, preventative steps, the real question isn't just what can be done, it's what can you do? Whether it's something small like checking in on a friend, or something bigger like learning a new coping skill. Which one of these steps can you take today to build a stronger foundation for your own mental wellness and for the people around you?